right. Hello and welcome to Just a Family. This is giving you something to talk about, or Just a Live TV as I like to call it. Today we're going to be talking about what is confidence. Who doesn't want to know what is confidence? So we're going to be talking about that today. I'm super excited about that. I've already written some notes about it today, so we're going to get into that. Our episode today is sponsored by A Phoenix Identity. Do you want to love yourself unconditionally and feel confident in who you are and what you want? At A Phoenix Identity, we help you connect to who you are without all the expectations and limiting beliefs. So set up a clarity session with them today. You can find that link in the description. If you want to reach out to either myself or my guest speaker, absolutely. Links in the description of this episode. Go and reach out and get involved in the conversation, whether you're watching live or catching a replay. Make sure that you comment and get involved, like, follow, and share, and all that fun stuff. I'm Melissa Krechler. Of course, I'm your host, but I'm going to hand it over to our guest speaker. Kerri, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Kerri Jokala. I am a Reiki Master Teacher. I host the Energy Within podcast. I'm also a fitness instructor, a boy mom, and I like to help women with their confidence, just embracing their weirdness, embracing who they really are, and learning to shine their light.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that you said you're a boy mom. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. And both my boys are adults, so it's nice. They're at that friend stage with me where it's like, oh yeah, they still want mom around and come to me for advice, but now it's like friendship.
Nice.
But unfortunately, it's TMI at some points. I don't want to hear those things. But they're confident with it. So
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about today. So before I came onto the episode or even joined the Zoom today, I had written something down and I wanted to share it. I'm walking around, I'm getting dressed. I'm not feeling good today for anybody watching. So if I look like crap, oh well, I don't care. But I'm not feeling good today. So I was getting dressed really late. I kept my girls home today. I'm like, no, we're not leaving the house for anything. Knock on wood that I didn't just jinx that and I'll have to leave the house, but
I'll send you some Reiki.
thank you. So I'm thinking about confidence today, and it's interesting to think of what is confidence. So we have confidence coaches out there and they're amazing. I'm nothing, I'm not going to come at confidence coaches. But I've heard people say that, you can't teach confidence. You can't like create somebody else's confidence. That's true. And I don't think that they necessarily do that. I think they help you unlock it within yourself. And so I wrote this down and I wanted to share it. And it's like, what is confidence? Well, to me, it's knowing your worth. Confidence is knowing your worth. It's following your path. It's loving yourself unconditionally. And it's making your dreams come true. But it's doing all of that without without needing outside validation, without, needing acceptance from anybody else or approval from everybody else to do that, or really anything else. It's not taking away, and this is one of the main points of this, it's not taking away the fear. It's not taking away the anxiety or the panic. It's doing it anyway because you know you're worth it, because you have the confidence to make it happen, right? That to me is confidence. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I agree completely. I have so much I could say about everything you were just saying. Yeah. So I do feel that, on some level, you can't really teach confidence, because the real confidence, like the final big confidence, comes from doing the thing, like whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's be yourself, whether it's start a business or a side hustle, or just do something that you've wanted to do in your life just in general, but you've been afraid to. It's actually doing that thing, because once you get over that hurdle and you just freaking do it, that's when you're like, oh, I didn't die. That was actually kind of fun, and it wasn't as bad as I thought. Or worst case scenario, because I have heard some of these stories, like, okay, it was as bad as I thought, but I'm still here, and now I know what I need to work on. You wouldn't have really known that if you hadn't done the thing. You can prep as much as you want, but it's not until you actually do it that you find out what you're good at, what you're not good at, what really needs your focus. Because you may have been focusing on something over here. Turns out you're actually pretty good at that, and you probably need to work on this instead, and you've been avoiding that. So At the same time, though, I do believe we can work on the energetic level, which is why I like using Reiki and mindset tools and things like that to help boost confidence leading up to that point. Because if you're that encompassed by fear that you can't even get yourself to take a step, then we need to really focus on your energy and removing as much of that as we can. Again, like you said, not removing it completely. There's always going to be a little bit of fear, a little bit of butterflies when you're doing something new and scary, but getting as much of that cleared as we can so that you start to feel comfortable with yourself. You start to feel confident enough to take even just a baby step. So, yeah.
The thing with confidence is it's knowing that it's not going to be perfect, right? Nothing is perfect. So when you do the thing, when I first started the show, and I've mentioned this a few times in our episodes, is I first started the show, and throughout even when I was in grade school, and we're talking elementary grade school, I have always had almost like a fear of being the center of attention. I have stage fright. I start sweating and I get really nervous, and I don't like pictures or videos. I don't like listening to my own voice. It is very rare that I will ever watch a replay of the episodes. And I have watched videos of myself or listened to some of the podcasts, but it is very rare. But I went into it, and I started off a few years ago. I started off my first podcast. I still have it, and I upload, very sporadically. So that one's not consistent at all. And that's my Spiritually Aligned Mindset podcast. And then I went and I was, for myself, when I first started coaching a few years ago, I had this issue with competition, and not that I was necessarily feeling competitive, but it was starting to a little bit get to me, is that competitiveness that I have to compete with other women, or there's not enough space for all of us. Mm-hmm. Right. And that thought jumped in, and I started Melissa's Monday Madness, which was every week on Monday, I would interview other female business owners, and I would interview them about what they did, what their process was, and just get that insight into who they were, right? And really share their knowledge and wisdom. And then as I was lying in bed with my husband one night, not doing anything inappropriate, my kid was there. So I'm lying in bed with my husband and my daughter, and we're watching TV. And at that point, and at the beginning of the show, you can see that, it was recorded in my bedroom. So my desk, of course, was across the bed. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I should start a talk show, like a live stream talk show. And I had this thought, and it just spiraled. And I had the talk show planned out, and I was posting about it within an hour.
Oh, wow.
And I just said, screw it. And I did it. Right. And even though I have massive stage fright, and I don't one of the reasons why I have a guest every day on the show is because I can't stand doing videos by myself. I feel like I'm talking to myself, and it's weird. I always tell people, even if I record just a podcast, I still have to see who I'm talking to. I still want to visually see you. It makes me comfortable. Right. And I knew that there would be people on that would, make inappropriate comments. Today we have, you're doing something right if people are commenting random nastiness on your.
Oh, geez.
And that's happened already. Somebody's, sharing their opinion on something that has nothing to do with today's episode. So
oh boy,
I'm not even gonna share it. It's still there. I won't take it down, because you know what? It happens to everybody, and it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me, because I'm confident in what I'm doing. I'm confident in the conversation that we're having. I'm confident that it's going to help even one person. The slogan of the show is imagine changing the world one conversation at a time. Mm-hmm. That was the driving force behind it. And when you are confident in your why, when you're confident in your self-love, that doesn't mean you have to like everything. There's processes that I've gone through with the show that I have not liked. There are, I've had to say no to people because they're not a good fit, or I'm not a good fit for them. It isn't perfection. And I think when we take away that need for perfection, or that need for everything to be perfect before we start or before we try, I love myself unconditionally. Do I like everything about myself? No. And that's totally fine. That's a part of being a human being. We don't have to like everything, but I still love myself. And that's part of that confidence is I love myself. I know that I'm worth it. Not everybody's going to like it. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, but I don't need their validation.
Yeah, I have a couple things. Hopefully I can remember everything I want to say on that.
I always keep notes.
I know, I usually do too. Like when I'm the interviewer, I'm really good about writing notes. When I'm the interviewee, apparently not so much. But that's one reason why part of my thing is embracing your weird, because I'm not always a goofball, but I can be a really big goofball. And I'm probably more of a goofball in other aspects of my life. Funnily enough, the podcast episode I'm going to put out tomorrow, I was talking about learning to embrace my own weird a little bit more in this area of my life, where like it's there, you can see it, it comes out, but it's not to the extent that it is in, say, when I'm teaching a fitness class, where I'm just bonkers, off the wall, dancing weird. I make really bad jokes on purpose, and that was a big key for me, was learning to embrace that part of me and just let it out without the fear of being made fun of or somebody saying something that, just being myself, just letting myself be myself instead of keeping everything bottled up, letting moments pass by where, I could have said something that maybe would have been funny, but I overthought it and then the moment was gone. And, I projected a different version of myself when I was staying quiet like that and not letting myself be. And when I started really doing that and really working, it was a process. It wasn't like I flipped a switch or something, but working on not taking things personally, not worrying so much about what other people might think. Then I started to get actually all the positive feedback that I was hoping to get by not letting that out. I started attracting the people who actually got me because they were seeing the real me then at that point. So it's not that I wasn't being the real me or that she wasn't there. I just wasn't letting her out all the way. So learning to not take things personally and really working at not caring what other people think. I think that's become a big problem that a lot of us and a lot of people today, I think, are fighting against, is needing this external validation. And while it's nice, and I think we should compliment and encourage other people and uplift other people, it's so much easier, and we actually get more of that feedback when we start that work with ourselves and we let ourselves just be who we are. Cheesy as it sounds, you let your light shine, and that's when you attract what you're seeking.
So I had my assistant, which is my oldest daughter. You can go now. Bring me something, and it's something that I haven't shared on social media.
Oh.
So and this isn't me promoting this because I'm not going to tell you what it's called, but I'm going to message me later if you want to know. Do you care about inappropriate things?
I'm okay. Go ahead.
I don't want to offend you. Okay. So we're talking about, the confidence to express ourselves, right? And embracing our weird. So I started my 7th business. And I started that probably about a month, just over a month ago, I started this business. And it is comedic, but inappropriate products. And so I'm going to show you my signature piece. And it's awkward and it's weird, but you can tell, like, as soon as I show it to you, you're going to see I'm already like, I feel the permanent smile.
I can feel it coming from
right?
you.
You just feel it coming. So this is cartoon, so please bear with me. But this is wrapping paper.
I had a suspicion. I was scrolling your social media this morning. That's what it's
so I haven't completely told everybody that's my company. But I've done cartoon penis wrapping paper. but that's the one I ordered specifically for me, and that's going to be gifted out. But
oh wow.
The expression on my face, the energy that I radiate when I talk about that company or the products on that company is so different than I would talk about, my crystal jewelry. I was super excited about it when I first started it, but it's not aligned to me anymore. I still make it because obviously I wear a ton of it. It's not right now, but I do normally. But when you find things, it's self-expression. You're embracing your weird. We expect that we have to be all put together and pretty and clean. Not clean, sorry. Like, I'm talking like my son came over yesterday and he's covered head to toe in like sweat and dirt because he was working, right? I'm like, man, you're dirty. Like, just started laughing at me, of course. But you're expected to look a certain way, to act a certain way. And not everybody is going to understand my humor with that wrapping paper. Not everybody's going to understand it. And that's okay, because it's not meant for everybody. But the intention behind it, the intention that I have with this business is not insulting. It's not hurtful. It's not hateful. It is comedic for me, right? And I think when we're expressing ourselves, a lot of people will think, oh, well, when I'm confident, I'm conceited. It's not. I don't know how many times I've said, oh, it's not promotional or it's not conceit, because the thought gets in there, that limiting belief gets in there where you think, oh, well, I can't do this because people are going to think I'm conceited, or, I can't showcase my penis wrapping paper because people are going to be offended all over the world. Whatever that looks like, right? Expressing yourself doesn't mean people are going to be upset. There's always going to be at least one person who's upset because they don't agree with your lifestyle. They don't agree with your way of being. They don't agree with your beliefs. And that's totally fine. That's why I, really didn't comment on the comment that we got on the live, because that's that person's comment. They're doing it to troll. They're doing it to get a reaction. They're not going to get a reaction because I don't believe that. I don't have to validate my belief by fighting with somebody else over theirs. That's not how that works. I'm not going to intentionally, go after somebody because I don't agree with them. Right? Yeah. Expressing yourself in whatever way, you have to be conscious of your own intention. And when I went to the doctor the other day, sorry to continue, but I went to the doctor the other day and I'm sitting in the doctor's office and there were two gentlemen in there. When I walked in, it was packed, but there was two specific gentlemen in there. And then there was another gentleman with his toddler. And I'm sitting there and the two gentlemen that are having the conversation are talking back and forth, very animated and swearing. And I'm a swearer. I curse like a sailor, but certain times, certain places, my mama, who is Christian, I will curse around her. And if I do, she's like, Melissa. So yeah, but it's not intentionally. I'm not intentionally trying to do something. Well, the gentleman beside me turned and he made a comment to these two men. And he said, guys, like, there's a kid here. Like, can you tone it down a little bit, right? And he wasn't aggressive. He was frustrated, of course, like you can see it, but I don't think his comment was to incite the reaction that he got. Well, one of the gentlemen went off, started cursing, freaked out, made it really aggressive. And of course, I'm sitting there and I said, why does it need to get aggressive? I said, he just asked you a question. He asked you a question. He didn't tell you what to do. He didn't, he's not telling you you can't curse. He's not telling you that you're an ass or anything along those lines. He's just asking you why. That's it. And the guy ended up shushing me and I'm like, oh no. Oh no. So I sat back and I waited. And after I waited, both of them stopped cursing for a good half hour. And then started again because they got animated on something else. But they had stopped cursing for a while. And it's not that, again, their intention wasn't to make other people feel uncomfortable. And I knew that, and I respected that, which is why I'm not going to come at you with anger or aggression or offense because you've offended my delicate qualities. No, I'm not. I'm going to ask you a question and that's it. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to respect your answer and see whether or not you're intentional. So when you're trying to be confident and you're trying to follow your dreams and you're trying to be intentional about it, you can be intentional of following your dreams, following your path and being confident without intentionally hurting other people.
Right.
Is it going to happen? Maybe, but that's not on you.
Right. I do think we do need to be conscious of how we're interacting with other people. I don't think that true confidence is conceitedness. I don't think it's being cocky. I don't think it's being rude to people or I'm going to do whatever I want regardless of how it's going to affect other people. I do think we still need to be conscious of our actions, but like you said, it's also intention.
Yep.
And true confidence to me is that cool, like easy kind of personality where you are just at that level where you're so comfortable with who you are, weird or not, outgoing or introverted, doesn't matter. You're so comfortable with who you are that other people feel comfortable being themselves in your presence.
Mhm.
So there's no awkwardness there, even if you yourself, like me, would be like, "Hey, I'm really awkward," but it's
Yeah.
you're creating that kind of atmosphere where just people just feel comfortable. And to take it a step further, I kind of figured out, just at least for my own journey, so that's what I try to help others through, is if you really know that you're here for something bigger and you feel like you have a bigger calling, that can feel so overwhelming, especially if you don't really know what it is, or like whether you have the idea but you're afraid of it, or you have multiple ideas and you don't know which one to go with, or you just know there's something there but you have no clue at all. It starts with getting comfortable with who you really are. It starts with embracing your weird. It starts with getting that true confidence in motion, which is always a fluid journey. It's always going to be up and down. You're never going to like just keep leveling up, and it's not like that. There's no final boss level, but we go through this journey, we figure out who we are, we get comfortable with it, and then that gives us that base level of confidence to then start following our purpose. So it's by figuring out who we are that leads us down that path. Because I also figured out it kind of really doesn't matter what it is you do, as long as you can be yourself while you're like, it's in alignment, you're doing something that lights you up. And I know people say, if you're going to go make money, like just start off, find the thing that's going to make you money. And I get that. If you're just like trying to get the ball rolling and get your foot out there, fine. I'm not knocking that whatsoever. But I think for long term and really figuring this thing out, you got to at least start with something that lights you up. Doesn't mean you're going to stay there. You could still pivot, but how are you going to know to make that pivot if you don't start here? It's like what I was saying before. You won't figure out what you're good at, what you need to focus on, what you need to work on until you take that first scary step. But the real first step is getting your energy right, getting your confidence base level figured out, embracing who you are, embracing, it's Reiki. I believe in God, and I bring all the spirituality into it, like really figuring out who you are, where you freaking come from, and what you really are. We're divine beings. We're all here trying to learn and evolve and grow as souls. That's really all we have to do. I mean, it's a lot, but at the same time, it's all you got to do.
You know what? It seems a lot harder than it is. And
Yeah.
I can say that with ease because I've passed it, right? When you're not past it, it is. When you're about to take that first step, it's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I remember I've always been spiritually inclined. I went to Sunday school when I was younger. I grew up in a very religious household. But I always fought it. I never felt comfortable. And so I decided that I didn't believe in God and I didn't want to go that route. And my mom is Christian. I have very religious family, and there's no issue because I don't disagree with them. And I don't, it's my belief's my own, right?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. But when I first started telling people that I was psychic and that I was a medium and all of these things, even saying the words out loud was terrifying. And I would have, I remember I had this one woman, she was dropping some stuff off at my house one day. And she says, she was like, she's talking about her business. And I said, yeah, I just started my own business. And she's like, oh, what? And I said, oh, I'm a psychic. She says, okay, I'm going home now. Okay, bye. And it was a religious community that I lived in, so I understood it. I wasn't offended. I wasn't like, I laughed. Still to this day, I laugh about it, and I'm just like, bye. And she sent her husband from then on. I was still okay to work with at that point. She sent her husband. But it was interesting because a good portion of my life, and you were talking about confidence and people gravitate to that. I'm the type of person where if you walk up to me out of the blue, so I have resting bitch face. I'm not going to lie. I absolutely have it. Most people steer clear of me because they think I'm scary as hell. And I can be, no denial there. But when somebody comes up to me, I remember a few people that I've met throughout my lifetime, especially in the last 10 years, will walk up to me, and within 10 minutes, they're telling me their life story. They're telling me their trauma. They're telling me things that they've never told another soul in 70, 80 years. I remember having an older gentleman come up to me and tell me about things that had happened in his childhood that he never told anybody. And I'm like, he's like, why am I telling you this? And I'm like, because I'm comfortable, because I'm not telling anybody. I'm not, I'm confident in my abilities. I know that I can help you with that. And people gravitate towards that freedom that talking to you about it brings, right? It frees you from the emotion, from the trauma, from all of that, because I know how to do that. But again, that level of confidence, right? It does make people gravitate towards you, right? And it does, not just people though. We talk about manifestation, right? Manifestation is building confidence. It's building the belief. It's doing things to attract what it is that you want. And when you're confident, you're manifesting all the time, right? Because you're acting on it. You're thinking about it, you're putting it out to the universe, not just vocally, mentally, but energetically. You're putting it out there going, I'm confident that this is going to happen. I'm confident that this is my path. I'm confident in my abilities. And the universe is going, finally, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. I'm going to throw in a couple tests in there, but here you go, here you go, here you go, right? And those tests, because when we're building confidence, when we're building anything, we're going to be tested. And that's the universe's way of saying two things. One, you still have a lesson to learn. Two, testing your resolve and your perseverance. Is it worth more than the struggle you're facing right now? And that I've asked myself that repeatedly through the last 10 years of being in business, 7 businesses later. And I keep asking myself, and I've had situations where I've kept asking myself, is my future, my legacy worth more than what I'm experiencing right here, right now? Because it's a moment, right? Confidence building, you were talking about the fear in doing it anyway. That fear is momentary, right? Watch the movie Sing. At the end of that movie, when he takes her hand, that paw, because it's a huge elephant. I have kids, as you can tell. At the end of that movie, he said, you might be afraid, but what did I tell you? Just start singing and the fear will go away. And just do it and the fear will go away.
Yeah. I've so many thoughts. Sorry, they're all floating through my head.
I do it all the time, so don't worry.
I know. It was right there. Well, I'll just go off the last thing that popped into my head, because just you were talking about singing specifically. Like, I've actually experienced that. Like, I'm not active at the moment necessarily, but I am also a singer. I've been a singer like my whole life, multiple bands, and I have, like, if to use that literal example, like butterflies in the stomach every time. But I kid you not, the moment I start singing, it all goes away, and you just get in the zone. And you do your thing and you live out your passion. And that's what I was going to say too, that these momentary fears and this fluid journey, I've found too that whatever you think you've overcome, you have overcome it, but now you're going to find the next level of it at the next level of confidence. So it's not that you're going to be fighting a constant battle. I don't mean to imply that necessarily, but what you should find is that these hurdles become a little bit easier to deal with. Doesn't mean they're not still hard, but now you have the wherewithal and the resources to deal with it. And that's how you grow when you get better, is by taking these lessons and these tests as they come and taking what you've learned and putting it to use and showing yourself who you really are. Yeah. And that manifesting that we're actually, like, really, when you think about it, always manifesting, whether we're intentionally doing it or not. It's just whatever level we're vibrating at, whatever frequency we're at, that's what we're getting. So it's not that we're necessarily doing anything wrong. That's just where we're at. So to become conscious of that and then do that work to keep raising your frequency, which will also be fluid, but we keep doing that work to get in alignment with what we want. So that's where the energy work comes in. Like, that's why I like putting energy work in with building the confidence. It's not just the mindset thing, and it's not just affirmations. It's really getting in tune with your personal energy and how you operate on that level. Because it's what a lot of us tend to overlook. We don't think about that. We think about everything in the 3D. And I'm not one to ever say we should deny our humanness. I don't agree with that by any means, but when we start blending it all together and finding that balance, that's when we can really, really shine with the level of confidence that we want to have.
And I'm glad you mentioned balance, because what I like to teach people is we have this center, right? Like we have this like balanced center energy. We're not supposed to be high vibe or low vibe all the time. Imagine smiling 24/7. Imagine smiling for like 5 hours, nonstop smiling for 5 hours. That's you high vibe. You're going to wear yourself out. You're going to be exhausted. You're not going to be able to smile for like 3 days because you're going to be too tired, right? And your muscles are going to be really sore. Your energy is like that. And I'm not saying you can't build that energy. You absolutely can. But when you're putting a lot of energy into that high vibe or even the low vibe, any heightened emotion is high vibe. And that's, I differ in that way of thinking, because not a lot of people will agree with me on that. I think that even heavy negative emotions are still high vibrational, because they require a lot of energy. They require a lot of stuff. I have never been more drained than on a heavy negative emotion day. That is more draining than going out, having an entire day of fun in the sun with my family. I'm not sun for me because I'm allergic to it, but going to the beach for the day and just having that relaxing and swimming. And I'm never more exhausted than having a really, high vibe negative day. That is draining beyond belief. So but you can, and so when we're on that kind of wavelength, that centered, relaxed, just be wavelength, we're not high vibe or low vibe. We're kind of just centered, and it's nice, because then as things come, we get to determine. We don't control it all the time, but we get to determine, hey, I really like that. I'm gonna get all like good and high vibe on that, right? Like, I'm feeling like crap today. I'm excited for the show. I'm going to pick myself up. I'm going to do it. We're going to get it done. And look, I lasted even longer than the show. So, that's a benefit. And, we get to choose that. We get to identify what we're doing with our body, how well that's going, our mental health, emotional health. We get to determine all that. So why not determine our level of confidence? And you mentioned being tested. I love that. And I'm glad that we discussed that. One of the things to know, though, is that every time, so I used to be a smoker. I quit for a while, then I smoked again. Now I'm vaping, so I'm all happy. But when I quit cold turkey was about 16 years ago, I quit cold turkey. And I quit for almost 2 years. And the way that I quit was I would still do everything that I used to do when I smoked. And I remember going out for a cigarette with my classmates, because I was in adult school because I dropped out early. And I'm sitting there and they're like, Melissa, aren't you having a smoke? Like, are you out? And I said, no, I don't want one. They're like, I said, I'm quitting. And they're like, are you sure? Like, literally held a cigarette in my face. And I said, you know what? No, I'm good. And I felt more powerful. I felt more confidence in my ability to say no. So when you're tested, when you're given those moments where it's like, is it worth it? What is your resolve here? When you're given those moments, you can create more confidence and more power with how you respond.
Mm-hmm.
So remember that. That's part of that growth process. And I love
Yeah.
that you mentioned it, because I was like, oh, I want to expand.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
I actually had one, if I could, real quick, I have one last thought. It's, kind of going back to something we had talked about earlier, but also ties in with this. Just really, a lot of this confidence too is just really taking radical personal responsibility for your own energy and for what you're choosing, for how you're choosing to act and react and all of that. And even in how we interact with other people, choosing how we're going to respond in certain situations. You know, are we going to get aggressive, or are we just going to ask a question, or is it better to just sit back and not say anything, or should we step in? You know, making those decisions and taking personal responsibility for how we're showing up to determine, you know, how we want the outcome to go. We can't control the outcome, but we can have an influence on it, and we can also just control our own energy in those situations. So just, you know, like how we're, you know, I'm in the same space where we're not going to knock other people's beliefs. I'm not here to convince anybody that they have to agree with me on anything. I do believe it is possible for us all to get along and exist and having different beliefs, but it also has personal radical responsibility and respect for other people's beliefs at the same time.
That is, you kind of hit a couple of my smarter method points on nail on the head. We did an episode on kids, and I asked myself this question right before we did the episode, because I was getting it all ready, because I'm a procrastinator and a last minute. So I'm getting it ready, and I was like, what do kids need to know, right? And then I was thinking of all the adults in the world today, and how many I've worked with, how many I've seen on social media, and just the amount of people who are not happy or healthy in their mindset, in any aspect. So what do people need? And I was like, the smarter method, and I came up with it, and it's an acronym, of course, because I adore acronyms. Just see, it's security in yourself. So it's security in your identity, right? And that's knowing who you are. There's maturity in your mindset. What's your beliefs, right? What do you believe? What do you feel? Accountability for your actions, right? And then responsibility for your reality. You are where you are because the actions, and the smarter method is also a stepping stone, right? It's not just what you need, it's also that stepping stone. Trust in your abilities, right? Trust in yourself. How to embrace your experiences, because a lot of us don't do that. And, the readiness to take the next step. And when you can put all that together, that's the recipe for success, right? That's the recipe for anything: relationships, business, spirituality, kids, all of it, because you now have like this solid foundation of who you are, and you trust that. And nothing outside of you can really shake that foundation. Yeah, okay, you can get hit by an earthquake, but there's going to be no damage, right? Like, I mean, there's not really going to be much damage, because you're going to be like, Kate, here's the earthquake. Let's brace for impact. We're okay, right? It's like having a bunker.
Yeah.
Like a war-proof bunker. That's what you become.
I like to talk about it in terms of actually like the difference between building a wall versus holding up a shield when you need it. So you're not completely closing yourself off. You're not becoming unemotional. You're not no longer engaging with other people, but you know when you need to put up a shield and protect yourself. And then you can take it back down when you feel good again.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we are definitely past that time. So is there anything else you'd like to add before we get going?
I think we covered pretty much everything. A little bit of everything.
Great episode. I like this episode.
This was fun. Thank you.
Love these episodes. All right. Well, thank you for joining me. Thanks everybody for watching or catching the replay. If you would like to reach out to either myself or Kerri, you can do so. Links in the description of this episode. I've sponsored today's episode with Phoenix Identity. As you can tell, I'm, Phoenix, all of that. I love rising out of the ashes. So something better. New and refreshed, I guess would be the better word there. Anyway, yeah, if you'd like to be a guest speaker, sponsor, blogger, or if you want to see a topic featured on the show, please reach out to us at justalivetv.com. Go and check it out. And yeah, like, follow, and share. Get in touch with Kerri. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Lots of love, everybody. And I will see all of you on the next episode. Bye.